Welcome to the Goat's Gravy, the ultimate podcast tailored for young professionals navigating the dynamic world of sales and sales leadership. We are here to serve up a blend of mentorship and advice. In each episode, we dive deep into conversations with accomplished leaders and rising stars in the sales industry. Together, we explore their triumphs, challenges, and invaluable experiences. Our goal? To distill their insights into practical lessons that can seamlessly integrate into your own career journey. So whether you're a seasoned sales expert or just starting out, join us as we ladle out wisdom and inspiration, empowering you to excel in the ever-evolving landscape of sales. Onward we go. All right, welcome back to the Goat's Gravy, the ultimate podcast tailored for young professionals navigating the dynamic world of sales and sales leadership. Before we get started today, Scott, we've got a few changes we're going to talk about. Dimitri, our producer, who's been a stud, his business is just taking off. It's on a rocket ship right now. We're very proud of him. We're actually going to interview him in a few weeks. So you're going to hear more about Dimitri and his success. So he will still be involved with us, helping us run what we call strategic operations. And so we'll see him again soon. But we have promoted Alex Lynn, who's been our editor, and he is now our producer. So welcome, Alex. We're excited to have you supporting us. So thank you so much. And now we get to the main event. So we have a true GOAT, one of the best in studio, by the way, AKA my basement, Mr. Brady Bronsnahan. Thank you.
Brady.
Welcome.
Great to have you, buddy.
Brady is a regional vice president at Rubrik, a leading tech company focused on securing the world's data. He is leading multiple enterprise teams across the West and the North Central. He began his career as a cold caller, which we all had to do at Vario, and he brings 25 years of enterprise software and high-tech services, having scaled go-to-market teams at MongoDB and SnapLogic. He's also an investor in Zulu Pods. His expertise spans cloud data, SaaS, security, and now AI-driven operations. AI Scotty, you're going to love that.
Yes, sir.
Brady serves on the board of Little Friends, Inc., and he's also deeply involved with the charity that's close to Scott and I's heart. We're board members of Special Spaces, and Brady's really stepped up his support this year. We really appreciate that, so thank you so much. He lives in Naperville, Illinois, with his beautiful wife, Emily, their daughter, Francesca, a student and dancer at the University of South Carolina, and their son, Oliver. Welcome, Brady.
Thanks for having me,
Brady.
All right.
We love that you're in studio, my man. Thank you for taking the time.
Yes.
For those
happy to be
listening,
here.
Brady, we had a Bears win last night, didn't we?
We had a big Bears win.
Huge win.
Holy cow.
Haven't had a
Man.
lot to celebrate, but this year's been fun.
Onside kick, unbelievable win. But yeah, we were all out enjoying that. So I appreciate you rolling into the studio.
Yeah.
Thank you.
If you see any sweating, it's not from being nervous, by the way. It's from last night.
We've had some other guests that have shown up in this studio, Brady. Man, if there's 12 cylinders, there's one dude, I won't mention his name. He's working on what, a half cylinder, Bill?
He had a great night the night before he was supposed to be
Yeah.
here in the basement. So
Yeah.
we had to delay.
So Brady, would love to kind of hear your story. And you're a tech guy. I'm a tech guy. Billy's in the med device, but he did spend some time in tech as well.
Yeah.
And a lot of our listeners and watchers are, going through interviews and they're going through internship opportunities and they're within their first 5 years. So we would love to hear your story on why sales for you. Was it destiny? Was it something in the family? How did you start getting involved in this crazy business?
It's a great question. Just talking to your son who's about to go to college himself, I had no idea what I wanted to do when I went to college. I'm very jealous of those folks that went to college and were like, I'm going to be a doctor or a lawyer. I had no idea. So coming out of college, I'd say even before that, I finished a semester late. So I told my parents I was on the 5-year plan.
Yes.
Half a semester
It's better
early.
than my 7-year plan.
Yeah, right. But I took advantage of that extra semester, and I ended up getting 3 different internships because I, again, didn't really know what I wanted to do. And I think one of the internships was at a very small company in the tech world where they were selling computers, not computers, like computers.
Yeah. Big time.
And
Like mainframes.
yeah. And so it was fun just seeing this guy operate. And I took advantage of that internship to one, go get meetings. And I didn't know how to get a meeting, but I played into like, how do I know this person, or what can I do to try to do that? Anyway, coming out of college, then I had opportunities to go do management kind of training programs. One was at Cintas, the uniform company.
Yeah, I remember
one.
Cintas.
It's a good one.
Another one was Sherwin-Williams, where I'd go work in the store for a couple of years and really get to understand the business and then move into the corporate world and so on and so forth. But then a company called, at the time it was called Internet Access Group came about, and it was a sales role, and called up my dad, who's been my mentor, and was like, I don't know. I don't think I'm a sales guy. And he's
Mhm.
like, I didn't think I was either. I'm in banking, but I sell every day.
Yeah.
Right. So the insights you're going to get, even if it doesn't work out, or you're going to understand how to articulate a value proposition, you're going to get uncomfortable picking up the phone and talking to people. You're going to understand how to close a deal and the financials behind it. So no matter what you're ever going to do across your career, there's going to be a sales slant.
No doubt.
And so I took a risk and went to this startup where making 20 grand a year and some commissions that, I really didn't know a thing about. And to this day, my first, so I sold internet access.
Mhm.
So think about, I'm not going to, but first deal I sold was 3 megs to a company in Chicago. I was cold calling from Cleveland to Chicago, and they spent about $3,000 a month for 3 megs. So think about what we've got now.
Yeah.
I'm still running this operation either.
Yeah.
And I got my first commission check, and I was like, more than I made the whole summer painting outside. I'm like, okay, I like sales.
You're liking sales.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Hey, Billy, before you go, do you think, I mean, all of us are married. Do you think we're good sales guys?
I think if you looked at our,
Look at Brady, look at you,
wives, we
look
do
at
pretty
me.
well. Yeah,
That's right.
So we can sell.
I think so.
All right. Just getting that out of
Or
there.
our wives got duped, but either way,
Probably
they're
a
still with us.
combination.
We've all been married a very long time, so that's impressive. Yeah.
Did you guys have a similar story? Like coming out of college, or were you like, I'm going to be a sales guy?
I always had people telling me, I remember being the social chair and the fraternity, all that. I always told people I was kind of destined to be in sales, but I started out in broadcast television, and that was my dream for a really long time, and then transitioned into advertising sales, eventually medical device. But but no, it's been such a phenomenal career. And I think for anybody out there listening, it's very normal not to know exactly what you want to do.
Totally. Yeah.
And so, and whatever you end up doing, it's all about, your effort, your attitude, enjoy the experience, enjoy the ride, and you will pivot once you get started and give something a chance. Right.
Yeah. And I think, with your background in soccer and, you played in college.
Yeah.
And as the three of
He
us,
was a
we do
stud
it.
too.
I know.
4-year
I know.
Letterman, captain.
Stop crushing.
Yeah. It was a big deal at one point.
You still are a big deal.
But as we hire people, and my daughter's going through the same thing. Should I be in sales? Because my son's going to be in sales. And she's a little bit all over the place. But I think what you experienced, Billy, and what you and I experienced is we actually tried it and liked it. And the reason why we're halfway decent at it is because we like to compete. We like to outwork people, and we like to kind of stick to a plan, right? And you need all that to be an athlete.
Yeah.
So my daughter she's sales, is it real estate? Now she's into marketing. She's like, Dad, I think I could do marketing. I think I like this.
Right.
But I think for our viewers out there, it's okay. Brady, you mentioned multiple internships.
Yeah.
Try a little bit of sales, try a little bit of marketing, could be operations. And I think you'll have the answer.
Yeah.
Right. And I think that's what you experienced once you started to get into it. You were like, this is cool.
Sure. Yeah.
Look at the money I made on that commission check. I'm off to the races. Right. Did you ever doubt yourself in the beginning of that process, whether sales was the right, or was it just a launching pad for you?
So great question. And I did. I would say I was 7 years with the same company, met my wife, and went to the second company called Akebia. And as I was there, I just started thinking about stuff, and I'm like, I don't feel like I'm a sales guy. Like I'm not shooting with the guns and like, hey, how you doing? I didn't feel jazzy. And my wife is actually the one that said, why do you even have to do that? Just be yourself.
Yeah.
And the minute she said that, I accepted it as like, you know what? I am a sales guy. And I'll tell you, from that point forward, my career launched even more than it would, because I stopped thinking about trying to be somebody else or the stigma of what a salesperson I thought was.
Yeah.
And I was myself, which made me successful because I wasn't trying to do something or be somebody I wasn't.
Man, that is so common. And my advice to people always is the more people you reach out to, like if you start into a new organization, figure out who are the most successful individuals, tap into their expertise, spend time with them, learn. If you can get to watch them, in action, that's awesome. And then you pick and choose bits of pieces of what you see that you feel like you can adopt and apply. But you've got to be who you are. You can't try to fake something else or be someone you're not. You got to naturally figure out how to make it work for your personality. But some of the most successful sellers I've ever worked with are people that aren't super outgoing. They're not super energetic, but they're really good. Maybe they're really good with the technical side, or they can be really influential, leveraging data to give their pitch. Like there's so many different ways. Real quick though, going back to the beginning, you started with a startup. Often startups don't have really a training program. They're hiring someone right out of school. How did you start to figure things out? Was there a mentor already there in that organization, or what did you do to figure out how to be successful?
There was very minimal training at that point, and we had more training around the products we're selling versus like what to do, right? We used a program called Goldmine.
I remember Goldmine. I used to have to input Goldmine data all day long for an internship with the company early on. It was painful.
So Goldmine
First
is
CRM.
like Salesforce for those who don't know. It was like the early version of that. But so we had to learn how to use Goldmine, and then like how to pick up the phone and call. You know how to do that? You just pick up and you start calling. And we were in a bullpen, we called it, right? Where you're with, and I actually had two buddies I worked with. So you're in cubes next to each other and just listening to everybody else fail every day, right?
Yeah.
And so through the failure is kind of where you end up learning the stuff. But I did have a guy there. His name was Spurko, and he had this curly Q mustache. And to this day, there's a handful of things that come to mind when and I just gave one of the advice to a young rep of mine this week. We were going to my first ever in-person meeting, which is rare for me because I called into Chicago remotely. And I was like, man, I don't even know what to do. He's like, you walk through the place like you own it, right? I'm like, okay, in other words, get rid of the imposter syndrome. Like, you're good. Don't worry about it. And go walk in with a lot of confidence as you're approaching the meeting. Yeah.
And in these days, when COVID hit, there's been a slow process to get back into the office. And because we all have young kids that are entering into the field, like right now. Yeah. I know the requirement for us at ServiceNow is we want you in the office 4 days a week, 3 days a week. But when you look at what the younger generation really wants, they want to work at home a good. So we're trying to find that balance. Yeah. So as you give advice to maybe people that are thinking about their first internship or for their first job, is that something where you'd recommend being around a lot of people in the office 5 days a week? Or do you think the hybrid, what's your recommendation? Because I've got my own, but I was just curious on yours.
I'll tell you mine, but I would love to hear what you guys say. And I'm going to guess we might agree. I don't know. For me, get your butt in the office, right? Like you just said, how did I learn the most? It's through hanging up the phone and talking to my colleague or listening to somebody else or going to talk to one of the senior salespeople or somebody in marketing in person, or you're building relationships, and it's a grind. Like when you're early in your career, it's a grind. You're not used to doing stuff. And it's not like I wouldn't have been motivated to get off my couch. And I don't think a lot of the kids coming up that are graduating probably would have that motivation. But man, like if you're in the office, there's just more energy, culture, level of accountability that comes with it. We wore a suit and tie every day to the office, and we didn't see one customer.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like, I just think like getting up, getting in that habit of getting your coffee, driving to work, being in the office, all that stuff to me matters with structure and everything else.
Yeah.
What do you guys think?
My industry is a little bit different just because everybody's typically field based. It depends on your first role, what you're doing. But I have had experiences. I was in the tech world for a while. I personally loved being in the office, and I agree with your advice 100%. If you're in a tech type job or an office type job, you're going to feed off the energy of others. That's the best opportunity to collaborate. Go grab someone, and have lunch, have a coffee. Just such a great learning environment to accelerate your knowledge and expertise. In the field-based roles, it's a little bit more difficult. You have to be very intentional about reaching out to people. Usually have a lot of drive time, so you can reach out to people while you're driving and have those same conversations. But making an effort to connect with people is so important, and it's much harder when you're based in the field.
Yeah, you guys remember Glenn Ross?
Yeah.
So my daughter, both our daughters are actually
Brady,
interested in real estate.
Okay.
I said, Ainsley, we got to see this movie. You know, that age, they don't want to do anything with you. So I ended up watching it by myself.
Okay.
Shocker. But they had that bullpen,
Yeah.
right? And the brass balls and the coffees for closers.
Yeah.
And just for those listening, Glenn Ross, go watch it. It's phenomenal around sales, just in general. It'll make you laugh. But Brady, you mentioned your dad, right? As it relates to mentors. And I think when we're talking about working in the office, I think it's absolutely related to mentorship in general. So, Timmy Frank.
Yep.
Tim Frank, CRO at Ahead. So Tony works, up through Tim.
Yep.
Him and I were in the bullpen together at EMC with the suit and tie.
Yep.
7 a.m. arrival. And I used to torture him. He'd be doing cold calls. I'd give his cubicle a mule kick every time I went by while he was on with, and I'll never forget that. But it's those relationships that you build and the mentors. He's now a mentor for me. Sure. So when you mention your dad, can you walk us through maybe some of the mentor, like, what are a couple mentors that you have now, and how frequently do you stay in touch with them, and what do those conversations look like over time?
Yeah. So one mentor that I think shaped my career right from that moment when my wife's like, "Hey, be yourself," was a guy named Joe Healy. Now Joe lives out in the Boston area, but he really started teaching me sales process and helped me understand that this is not just a job. You can build a career on it, and there's ways to go about it, doing it with operational excellence, right? And it, to this day, there's things like flinch tests I talk about, and doing a follow-up email within 24 hours, and all these different things that I think have embedded in my success as a rep, but also my success as I try to mentor folks, right? And understanding the why behind it with obviously examples of where it's been successful. So Joe Veely for sure. Him and I will text once a year, maybe. Okay. Unfortunately, at this point, because just life gets busy.
Yep.
And then as my career has evolved, I've got mentors kind of scattered throughout the different jobs that I've had through from then until now.
What's the best advice you ever received?
Oh gosh. I think I just gave it to your son. Whatever decision's going to be the right one, right? Because what happens is you overthink, whether it's changing jobs a lot of times, sometimes a strategy when you're approaching an opportunity, account, whatever, but own the decision you're going to make and just have the faith that it's going to be the right one. And there's going to be moments where it might not feel like the right one, but it's going to lead you where you're supposed to be and you'll end up learning from it. So I think that's one piece of advice that I still give today.
Yeah.
What about you, Billy?
I'd say I think that's great advice. I always tell people that your network is gold. If you spend time on it and you stay connected with the people, and to your point, we get very busy, especially as you get older and take on more responsibility. It's a little challenging to stay in touch with people maybe from the beginning of your career. I've talked about this before. There's a great book called Never Eat Alone. Yeah. It's all about networking, staying in touch, right? Working your network. And so I just, especially college age kids or people just getting started, I just think it's so impactful to make sure that you are reaching out. And everybody that's in school right now, if you just lean on your parents and their networks, right, to socialize, and your friends and their parents and so on, so many people want to give back. They want to help. They want to mentor. They really enjoy it. So at least for my own kids, I always tell them, like, just take advantage of my network, start creating your own. And what you just said is so important. If you connect with someone, if Scott goes and has a coffee with one of my kids or breakfast, which he's done, he'll help try to mentor, our kids on decisions like college or whatever it is. Make sure that you're asking really thoughtful questions, but keep them updated as you make progress on things. If Scott's going to help you make a connection to someone for a potential internship, it's one thing to send a nice thank you note and show your appreciation, but keep them updated on your progress as you go. Yeah. And there's people, I have a mentor from 20 years ago. I call at least, once a quarter and just give him an update on where I'm at in the career, check in on him, what he has going on. I just think it's so important.
Yeah. Yeah. And if you mentioned, I think you used the term life gets in the way, Brady. And I agree, especially with the kids.
Yeah.
The colleges, we want to retire someday. Man, it's a lot, right? But when you look back at being intentional about your mentors, and we're all working really hard, but carving time out of your day to get in touch with the Timmy Franks of the world,
I know it.
the
Yeah.
Georgie Shanines of the world, right? Whoever that network, your dad, whoever that may be, I think the dividends that I wouldn't know when I'm in my 20s, what it's paid off 30s, 40s, 50s is like 20-fold. But I had no idea back then. It was all about, I got to get to the number. Am I in good standing? What am I going to make? This customer, that customer, but stepping out. Timmy Frank uses the term, make sure we're working on the business opposed to in the business. And on the business as a salesperson is that network.
Yeah.
Right. And to being intentional about that. Do you think about that in your kind of day to day about being intentional on opposed to in the business? I don't do it enough, by the way, personally.
I don't know if I totally understand the question.
Like just working on your network in general outside of your day job.
I would say, as you were talking, I do a poor job of getting the mentorship.
Mm-hmm.
I do a good job of providing the mentorship.
Yeah.
Right. And I am very intentional about that. And I was also thinking, and I don't know if you guys would agree, giving the mentorship. I've been giving mentorship a handful of times. And my office was with earshot of my wife. And I've said, if my wife can hear me giving the advice to you that I'm giving, it's advice that I should be taking myself. So I think there's aspects of the mentorship that you provide where it's also a really good gut check, because it's like, you're not necessarily going to hear anything new, right? Or give anything new to people, right? It's probably something they've heard before, but the reinforcement of it, and then me hearing it come out of my mouth, it's like, man, I should probably take some notes myself and do what I'm suggesting others to do. So,
how often have you told your kids, do what I say, not what I do?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
But I agree with that. I do think the other thing is, I'll caveat it with, I'm giving advice or mentorship based on my own personal experiences, what's worked for me or maybe hasn't worked for me, but tap into others, right? If you have a big decision you're making, I'm happy to contribute and give you my thoughts, but also reach out to get more opinions so you can make a really informed decision. You were talking a little bit about, pouring back into your team and mentoring. If we get specific into sales, what's your take on just having a routine or a system? You talked about following a sales process early on in your career. Tell us a little bit about your thoughts when you're coaching your own reps.
Yeah.
What are you having them do?
And Brady, before you answer that, great question. And it was exactly where I was going to go. Because in the pre-call, right, we were talking about the 4 disciplines of execution. And I started reading some of the notes online about the book. But I think it dovetails nicely into Billy's question. Take us through that book, and maybe then you can dovetail into process. Right. And how you've carried that process on over your last, 7 to 9 years. Love to hear about that.
Yeah. So at a high level, I was an individual contributor most of my career. I had a quick trajectory up the ranks, got into leadership, had my daughter, and decided being back to individual contributor was more important so I could be around physically, mentally, emotionally for them. And best decision I made, and probably some of the most successful years I've had, both financially and in my professional world. So I say that, and I was successful. And when I went to MongoDB, and there's context behind why I'm going to go answer your question. So MongoDB, as well as the current company I'm at, Rubrik, they're very high growth organizations. We're growing, and Mongo grew, 40% year over year as a $1 billion company. That's just not normal, right? And so to be successful in that world, you've got to be very thoughtful about how you're approaching your day to day, your week to week, month to month, quarter to quarter. And going back to that, we introduced a sales process at MongoDB, and I've gone through Sandler sales any sales training I've been through, right? But I never really was at a company that truly had a sales process. Their sales process was put this in, commit or best case, right? And then, what's your percentage close rate on this? And it was not a sales process. So they're rolling this out, and my boss at the time, Sean Hennigan, said, "Hey, if you want to know kind of the backdrop to the sales process, go read 4 Disciplines of Execution." And I was a sales guy. I was 40 years old. I should have been the one being like, dude, I know what I'm doing here. What do I need to learn a new sales process for? So I read the book. And at a high level, the book, so Sean Covey's the son of Stephen Covey, if you know, I just saw your book over here. So it focuses around how organizations, and it could be a sales organization, could be a factory, focus on a lagging measure. And that's like, let's be the safest factory in all the company. In our world, it's like, let's go hit our quota, right? And I would always think about that. Like, I want to hit my quota. I want to get promoted. And all you do is think about like something that honestly you can't control. It's a lagging measure. And so my big takeaway from the book was a handful of things, but one of the four disciplines is all around the leading indicators, right? What are those leading indicators that really can make the impact on the lagging measure? And so when you look at sales, for us, a lot of the leading indicators are around pipeline generation, as an example, right? We are out there to win the market, and by winning the market means not just like selling more an existing customer. It means going to get new logos for us.
Sure.
And so we had to be methodical around how we do pipeline generation, because if we do that really good, and that's one of our wildly important goals, which is another one of the disciplines, is honing on your wildly important goals, we are going to be able to then get to the point where we're making an impact on revenue. And so we can go there's a lot more to this, but typically at other organizations, you go run your one-on-one meetings and it's like, what are you going to sell? What are you going to sell? What are you going to sell? As a sales leader, then the way we run our early stage one-on-ones, we call them, is all around the leading indicators. We'll have a forecast call later, which is important to operate the business, but this is more driven around that. So that's the backdrop to it. And then we've layered in certain areas within a sales process with key gates, we call them, that allow us to make sure we're doing the right discovery, but more so validating along each step of the equation.
And have you taken this standard process and followed it? Does it have like a life of 7 years and you've tweaked it over time? Because I'm just trying to take an example, like building pipeline.
Yep.
Okay. Are you going underneath that from a leading indicator standpoint to say, well, that's a function of number of meetings. That's a function of being enabled.
Yeah.
That's a function of our partners really understanding the value prop.
Yep.
And are you documenting underneath that?
I love it.
And then you're building over a 7-year period. You're continuing to kind of stay with the same, groupings of leading indicators.
It's an awesome question, and the answer is yeah. It's totally evolved. So we at Mongo were like, okay, we're going to do pipeline generation. We had pipeline generation Tuesday, we call it PGT. So we block out the whirlwind, which the book talks about, hone in one day where we're not having meetings. We're just trying to get meetings to build pipeline. Reps would come in and they didn't have a plan, right? Maybe they didn't have the right accounts. So we established, and I operate this way with my team, is pipeline generation is also a lagging measure. In other words, if you come in unprepared, you can't have any impact on your success. So what we've realized is, to do really good PG, you got to first off pick the right accounts you're going to go after. Determine with us, we've got a platform similar to ServiceNow that you can sell into those accounts. So what part of that platform is most relevant to those accounts? Who are the right personas for us to target? What's the right messaging we're going to use with the point of view, because we just done all this great research.
Yep.
And then if you do all that, you come into pipeline generation Monday, which we have, and you can now just fire off really good messaging, make calls, LinkedIn. So to answer your question, yes, we're seeing how we can evolve this beyond just like, oh, it's pipeline. No, that's actually pipeline generation. That's actually a lagging measure, right? Like, how can we better control the outcome of those?
Yeah. Yeah. I had a forecast call last week, and I won't name any names here, but I'm trying to get a view of Q1.
Yep.
Right. Everyone's so enamored with Q4 and December close. And I just wanted to kind of take a look at the business. We don't have quotas yet either, by the way. Right. So there's a little bit of cat and mouse. I don't want to show too much because I don't want my quota to go up.
Yeah.
But I was sitting down with this gentleman and his leader. So it's kind of a skip conversation. And we were talking about Q1. And it was a horrible conversation. He just wasn't ready. And I was like, you're one of our most active reps.
Yeah.
Right. On our entire team. And you just showed up to this call really unprepared. I'm disappointed. Right. And back in the day when I was at EMC, I probably would have sworn, pounded the table, acted like I was a tough guy.
Yeah.
But I just said, hey, man, when you come to this, like, your craft is important. Your dedication to operational command is what I think something you're referencing. What does that mean to you? And we're all sales professionals, but for our listeners and our viewers out there, taking the time to really get organized around your business, and really, we don't have time on this podcast to really break down what those metrics are.
Yep.
But it sounds like for our younger folks, and even I haven't read the book.
Yep.
This could be a good foundational exercise for all of us, is what you're saying, right?
Yeah. The third discipline is have a compelling scoreboard. Right. And so we've got something called metrics for success, and multiple Tableau dashboards that allow us to measure those leading indicators. And it is driven. It's 8 meetings a week.
Yep.
It's 1.4 opportunities created on average, and $115,000 in annual contract value created every week. So we have measurements that we can look at for that. And if we use those, not from the micromanagement, hey, you're not doing this, more from, hey, if you're not meeting those, how is me as a leader can help develop those better?
Yeah.
How can you get more organized? Yada, yada, yada. But the compelling scoreboard is very important as you're measuring those successes, right? And then you can look out.
Yeah.
Right. You have more visibility into the next quarter to see, hey, you're having a great quarter now. Is that going to sustain itself quarter over quarter?
Right. Yep.
Yeah.
So I just had coffee with someone that is struggling a little bit, and this individual has so much potential, and they're not a sales personality. It's not their background. They came from a clinical role.
Okay.
But kind of to the points you're making, it's so solid, because the reason it's so important to follow a process, like we have our sales process, and that's the first question I asked them, are you even leveraging that? Are you using it for your daily activities? And it's like, I'm not really. I'm literally getting in my car trying to figure out where to drive. It's like, you're not prepared. You don't have a plan. It's all about preparation, execution, and follow-up. That's the simplicity of sales.
Yep. Love it. Yeah, that's great.
However, it's creating healthy habits, right? So I love what you're doing. You guys are doing your pipeline gen building on Mondays. You got, your system down, and this is how we're doing it. I just think it's so important as you create healthy habits for yourself. That's ultimately going to drive the results you want. And if you stay disciplined to following that focus, whatever that process is for you,
right?
I just think it's so important to make sure you're spending time preparing, whether it's preparing to build pipeline or actually preparing to go into a meeting. You're taking that time, connect with the peer, role play how you're going to open. You talked about messaging, critical. Like there's little things you can control that are going to influence your ability or your success rate to a much higher degree if you stay disciplined and actually do the work. So I love that. I'm going to read that book.
Yeah.
I've never read it.
It's a good book, especially for a sales leader. First half of the book is all around what they are. Second half is how, as a sales leader, you can teach to it too. So it's a good listen.
It's just so important for sales leaders. So I know where I struggle the most with my role is that everything is so reactionary. For me, there's just, things are flying. There's so much going on. We're all jamming. You're traveling. You're all over the place. How do you find time to be proactive? How do you find time to be strategic? Reach out to the right people. Do the follow-ups. How do you figure that out in your world?
Well, my world is crazy, right? I mean, like you guys are too. So I color code my calendar. And actually,
we're not judging you.
Yeah,
right now.
I know. And now within Google Calendar, it'll tell you like per week where you're spending your time. So I'll do that. But again, I'm not going to I have no vested interest in this book. I don't know, get any proceeds, but the wildly important goals is really something that hit home to me. In our lives, you have this whirlwind that's coming at you. And for me, and it used to be, I got to take the kids to soccer practice. I've got to update Salesforce. I got to drive people to marketing events. I've got to, whatever it is, everybody's got their own version of that. And what I noticed I was doing wrong is I would do the easy early in the day. I'll check that off. I got to pay bills real quick. I'll just do that real quick. I'm going to, I got to just do this training real quick and do that real quick. And then it got to be 4 o'clock. I'm zapped.
Yep.
And it's like the two most important things that I should have done, I didn't do. Right. So really for me, I've swapped that. What are the most important things I need to do that are going to have the biggest impact on whether it's my life personally or professionally, and do those early in the day. One of them could be working out. I'm I'm not the, I wish I could do a better job with that, but that's a great example.
Yeah.
Working out sooner, because that's something that should be super important to us. But it's getting those things done. And then that helps me, I guess, from an operational rhythm, know that when it comes to the end of the day, my stress level's a lot further down because I know the most important things were completed.
Yeah.
Does
Yeah.
that answer your question?
Yeah, no, it does for sure. And I think that's having a system. I know for me, I get up really early.
Yeah.
I love because having 2 hours in the morning before your day starts, 3 hours, whatever it is, it just helps you prepare and show up different as a leader.
Yeah.
And I think that's really important because if you're waking up and right to email and just jumping in your day, I think it impacts your psyche and sometimes how you are showing up as a leader. Sometimes that stress comes in and maybe you're not maybe not listening as well. Maybe your coaching isn't as on point. So I just love getting up early, finding time. I have my own routine of what I go through to kind of prep mentally for the day, and then you're off and running. But I know it's difficult because there's so many things coming at you.
Yeah.
The other thing, and we've talked about this too, is the other thing is staying in the pocket, because as sales leaders and even for sales reps, if you're mentoring a friend or a peer, it's so easy to want to give people the answers because you're in a hurry, you're in a rush.
Yeah.
And really listening to them and then asking them to give you their feedback first. What do you think you should do? Right.
Yeah.
Get their take, and then stay in the pocket for that longer. I just think it helps accelerate their learning and processing how they should solve their own problems.
Yeah.
And also help them be better mentors down the road when someone's reaching out to them about the same problem.
Yeah. And I think like quarterly plans, I think are really good to kind of reinvigorate once a quarter. And for, the newer folks in sales here, it's sitting down with, yes, your mentors, but having that relationship with your leader. They've been there, they've done that. They've probably been a very successful individual contributor, but okay, this quarter, what am I going to work on? Right. It could be super basic and foundational, but in year 3, you kind of go through the motions and you've had success, but rarely do I see individual contributors. And this is really a leadership question. And us as leaders having the discipline to sit down with the folks that work on our team and reestablishing and setting that coaching every quarter and reset it.
Yeah.
What do we, because everyone's got gaps.
Yeah.
Like Billy doesn't think he has gaps. I think he has quite a bit
I've
of
got gaps all over the place.
All right.
Just talk to Nedra.
But Billy, right, as leaders, because we're on the next flight looking for the next deal, the people development piece and having an hour and just to talk about their development, what they're going to get out of that, and the fact that when the recruiter calls them, they're going to now think Billy is vested in my success. I know exactly what I need to do to continue the success, but you, as an early in career seller, need to demand that from your leader, right? And oftentimes the leaders are hair on fire, to your point, same with me, but demand it and document it.
Yeah.
Right. And I think that'll pay off in spades. I don't know if that's something, Brady, that you do with the folks that work on your team. I do an okay job with it. I could do better.
So I had really good advice from a mentor. I've talked about Christian often. He'll be on at some point. But Bambini, the great Bambini. But Bambini is a stud. So he told me early, the way you win hearts and minds, right, of your people, you obviously win their minds when they know you're in it. You're trying to help them win. You're trying to help them be successful. You care about their business success, but you win their hearts and you actually care about them as individuals. You know what's going on in their home lives. You know all the stuff they're battling. And so that's advice I took real serious early on. I saw him doing that with me. And so I think that's a critical way. And you accelerate your trust when you do that. And it's got to be real. It's got to be authentic, not a, quick, how's your weekend? Okay, right to business, but something that is meaningful. But one thing that I think is interesting in our world is that, and I'm being transparent here. I got some feedback that was really good. Scott often tells me I talk too much. That's always great feedback. He's right. But I sat with the leader, and it was a Zoom call, and we spent an hour and a half. We're talking about the year, talking about next year. And she basically at the end just said, man, I haven't had your attention like this in months. This was so helpful, but it was like, dumping a bucket of cold water on my head. Cause I think I'm so thoughtful. I think I'm such a great listener. I'm so engaged, but it's so obvious when you're multitasking or you're dealing with other things and you're like just giving them snippets or you're rushing calls. And like, that forced me really to take a step back and say, okay, I got to slow down because I'm forgetting who I am as a leader, and I'm just allowing the stress of my environment to feed into being impatient and pushing through. And so it's a good wake up call. And I just think we have to pull ourselves back. Getting a 360 feedback from, your team is so important. I don't think we do that enough.
Yeah.
And guess what? Feedback is a gift, even when it's, constructive or poor. In my case, I get that a lot from this guy.
No, I got from when I first became regional director. I was talking to my HR business partner and just, about different things. And she's like, how's it going? I'm like, I think I'm going. She's like, well, why don't you just go ask your team? I'm like, I don't know if I want to know the answer. But I did. I said, hey, I don't want to hear, hey, you're doing a great job, or, give me 2 things that you'd like to see more of. And the feedback I got was awesome. And it was, the one piece actually for me was, hey, you've had all this experience being successful in sales. I wish you'd share that more. Like, I feel like you're holding back. And I'm like, God, I didn't want to feel like I was the Mr. Know-it-all. I'm going to come with all the answers, but they're like, that's why we work for you too, man. Like, but anyway, you're right. The feedback is a gift. Getting that on a consistent basis versus maybe that once a year is something that is important.
I used to kind of back to in the office when I was at EMC running a team, and it's hard to get feedback when you ask, how am I doing? Right. When you're face to face or even on the phone. But what I used to do, and I think I've told this in other podcasts, is, my assistant came in, I handed out these pieces of paper. Oh, you had an
assistant. You were one of those guys. Wow.
I was pretty big time.
Yeah.
And I said, give me 2 things, like you're saying, Brady. Give me 2 things that you expect me to continue. Hopefully we'll get 2 bullets out of that. But more importantly, take the gloves off. I'm not going to read them. And back to my assistant, she jumbled them up and put all the feedback, and then I'd read it. I remember reading it one night because I'm a loser, like on a Saturday night with my wife, and I'm reading this feedback. I'm like, Christy, this whoever this is thinks I'm a complete lunatic and I don't listen. She's like, I've been telling you that, Scott, for years.
Exactly.
Okay.
Like, did you write this?
But I thought back to the office, that's a cool way to do it, because, we all have digital ways to do it now, 360s, and people forget to do it and you got to hound them. But that's a kind of a basic way to do it and to get really good feedback. But back to the listeners for a second, demand that time from your leader.
Yeah.
Demand it, put it on the schedule, because sometimes even the most mature leaders, like we have a lot of experience across the 3 of us, like 75 years plus. And even though we know we should take that hour, Billy, to your point, we just don't do it. So please listen to us, demand the time, come prepared with what your plan looks like, and then tweak it every single quarter.
Yeah.
I think for leaders too, make that one-on-one non-negotiable, meaning you need to be committed to doing it every week. And that's one thing I do. There's certainly weeks where I'm like, hey man, we got to move this meeting, or I'm going to do whatever, but every week I'm having a one-on-one. And again, I go back to that one-on-one is separate from I've got a separate forecast call. So the way I think about those one-on-ones is from the development mindset. Our job as leaders is to develop people, period. Right. And for a high growth company, any company, worst thing for our business is retention and lack of retention, right?
Sure.
Somebody leaving,
yeah,
because it has a direct impact on your productivity, hitting numbers, everything else. So we want people to succeed and we want them to feel developed. And my old CRO, Cedric Page, was like, hey, you will have the most loyal team through good times and bad if they feel like they're being developed and they're growing as a professional and human being. And so I've taken that to heart and made sure that those meetings I'm talking to are helping develop my now first line leaders to be better at what they're doing with their direct reports too. And if you do that, now you're building this kind of bench, and I have more control over my business that way. So in a subtle way.
And if you're a great listener with your team when you're doing that, you're not always going to have the answers. But my direct reports are way smarter than I am. I mean, I've hired really smart people for good reason. But what I learned from them, I can pass on in my other calls, right? Sure. Or share with other people, because there's things you're gonna pick up. So that's why I think that one-on-one is so important. And I'm guilty. You get busy, you move it, you cancel it, you change it, but staying in that rhythm and finding that time is so beneficial for both parties.
I think
Right.
how many direct reports do you guys have though? It's probably gets to a point where it's,
I have 8.
yeah, that's a lot. That's a whole day.
Yeah.
What do you have?
It's changing from job to job, but mine's less than that
Yeah.
because I've got a job where we've got like emerging market responsibilities. So it'll range from like 3 to 4.
Yeah, same with me.
And that's manageable for
Nice.
sure. But we're talking about Brazil, Mexico City, time zones, and just different cultures, right? So trying to figure out working just in the U.S., Billy, and I know you know this from working internationally. It's a whole different beast, right? As far as the culture, that's a whole different topic. But you know, as we're coming to the end of this podcast, Brady, you know, just you're a GOAT, right? You've had great success. And if you're a 20 something listening to this, considering sales, or you might be in your first couple of years, you know, any parting shots of a couple things that are really sticking in your mind? Billy, I'd love to hear the same from you. And I got a couple things to share, but, you know, a couple takeaways.
Yeah. I do a lot of interviewing. We're, over the last 2 companies, we continue to build a business. Number one question I get is, what does it take to be successful at MongoDB, at Rubrik? And my answer is the same regardless of the company. The first thing is you have to do the hard, right? You have to do that 1% extra, or the 1% that even A players don't do, right? That's what makes somebody really good. And that could be that one last email, a really well thought out messaging. It could be like making sure your presentation's all succinct and good font. Like, it's that 1% extra. So do the hard stuff. The second thing is be a good communicator, right? And so that means communicating well to the customer. And that could be in terms of even how you present, your follow-up, listening is part of communication, but also communicating internally with folks like marketing and deal desk and your technical folks, all those things. And that's also another word for leadership. Be a leader, regardless of having a leadership role.
Mm-hmm.
And the third one, do not be afraid to not have the answers, right? I don't have all the answers. We just talked about having people smarter than us. It drives me nuts when somebody goes into a med pick session, a deal review, an account review, and they're like, they don't want your help, right? And the point of this is to get help, not from me because I have all the answers, from everybody else.
Yeah.
So come in vulnerable, wanting to learn. And those three things are what makes the most successful people that I've seen.
Love it.
It's great. Great advice.
Yeah.
What do you got?
Mine right now,
Billy, try to keep it under 30 minutes.
I'd say right now it's choose courage over comfort. That's my theme
like
heading
that.
into 2026. We've all heard get comfortable being uncomfortable.
Yeah.
It's the only way you're going to grow
Yeah.
at the end of the day. And every day, if you're in the world of sales, you've got to dig deep and find that courage. And it's going to help you go out, be motivated, make things happen. And the more you have the right healthy habits, the more you're focused on being disciplined with your process, it's way easier to be courageous. But making that extra call on a Friday afternoon, comfort is, going to go meet a buddy for a early happy hour.
Right.
Courage is I'm going to go cold call for another 2 hours and knock on some doors and probably get some no's. But those are the things that over time I believe will differentiate you from others.
I love it. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'll kind of stick to the cliche AI piece. And we've got technology. So we're old birds at this table, but we can be a lot more efficient leveraging technology than we could before. I think it was a lot of spreadsheets. It was a lot of face-to-face, which did us well at the time.
Yep.
Right. And there's a piece of technology, Billy, I may have mentioned it to you, called G.O.A.T AI. It's kind of brand new to us. And it's, how do you practice, right? And that's my kind of theme, and that's my ask of our listeners: organization and practice your craft. That could be coming up with a quarterly plan and continue to tweak it every quarter. But we're in sales, right? So you got to practice sales calls, right? And this piece of technology, which I tried, was, we got a bot that's trained, and say you're making a call on a salesperson. They're calling us. And you press click, and it's just recording. And the AI bot is actually giving you feedback constantly. And at the end, they're going to grade you. And I think I got like a 72. I'll take it. That's kind of a pass, but technology is providing us as salespeople the ability to practice way more efficiently than we could before because, prehistoric times when we were selling, it was just sales calls. And where's the feedback coming from? If it's just you and I doing a sales call,
Right.
You're like, I think I did great. We got some pipeline next, but take advantage of AI. This is going to be coming to an office near you this coming year for sure. But that just gives us the ability. And I'm trying to tell my son's like, my job doesn't start till August. I got plenty of time. I want to go to Europe. I want to go to this next rave, whatever the hell he's up to. I said, have enough discipline to leverage the technology and practice on your way in. Right. And I think we're going to be better sellers for that.
I agree. Yep.
Listen, dude, you were phenomenal. Thank you so much for making time, especially with our tech issues early on. But great seeing you, great having you here. Really appreciate it. Best of luck to you in the future as we go.
Billy in this microphone, I've counted for our audience out there. He's dropped it.
It's a little top heavy today. I'm not
7 times.
Need a new stand.
So Brady, Merry Christmas to you and the family.
You too as
Thank
well.
you. You were awesome.
Michigan, maybe.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, well, definitely. Maybe New Year's or whatever. But you've been awesome sharing kind of, I think this book is something that I'm going to go read, 4 Disciplines of Execution. Thank you for bringing it to our attention.
Yeah.
And you're a rock star, dude. Thank you.
Thanks, guys. This is great.
All right.
See ya.
Take care.
And that brings us to the end of another episode of The Goat's Gravy. We've shared some awesome insights and strategies aimed at enhancing your journey in sales. And the conversation does not have to stop here. So be sure to follow us on social media at The Goat's Gravy and explore more at thegoatsgravy.com. Your journey towards sales mastery is ongoing, and we're here to support you at every step. So thank you for tuning in today. Stay curious, stay driven, and we'll see you on the next episode. Take care.